Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharane, Nivase Sasunyavadi Paschatya Satarane. Om Agiladamanandyasa Janajana Salakaya Chaksu Sumilitan Zena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manavistam Stapitam Zena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Pandantikam Vanchakalpa Trubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Prabhunebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. Here's a very difficult question I'm going to ask you. You know what it is? You know what it is? Do you know what it is? Yes. I was going to ask a very difficult question. Do you know what that question is? Yes, you know. That's not a question. No, the question is, does anyone remember anything from yesterday's class? Now that is very difficult. Raise your hand if you remember something from, but I will call on you, maybe. Oh yes, switch off your mobile phones. Please. Yes, Paul. How to develop our sincerity. And you can answer that? Association of devotees who are more sincere. Thank you. Anyone else remember something? Yes.
What is revelation?
What is revelation? Well, what is revelation?
It's something from the higher. It is a descending process.
A descent from the higher platform. Yes, Paul. We have to sing the glories of the Lord. When you say we have to, what do you mean? Because so many people, even though they have to, they don't. So if we want to advance, if we want to be happy, we have to glorify the Lord. Why? Why is that necessary, according to your understanding? Excuse me? Yes, but why does that satisfy? Because it's completely natural for us to glorify Krishna, because he is the center of all existence. He's our life, we're part of him. And the example given, or an example given, is why do the hands put the food in the mouth? Because that's how they get nourishment. It's a natural way to get nourishment. Something like that. Anyone else? Any of the Matatis remember something? Everyone's shy. Anyone remember something from yesterday's class? Raise your hand. Do you remember something? We have to please Krishna's senses. His ears, yes, Prabhu.
Similarity between the dream and the day activities.
What is the similarity?
Both are temporary.
Yes, both are temporary. Prabhupada actually once said that daydream, night dream, they're the same. He once said that. Yes, you remember something.
Satisfying our senses doesn't give us so much of satisfaction. If we satisfy Krishna's senses, then
Yes. Satisfaction of Krishna's senses brings us satisfaction. And the attempt to satisfy the senses doesn't truly satisfy them. Yes?
difficulties may come, but then it is up to us to be sincere and go towards Krishna.
Yes. Not only, it's a fact, difficulties may come, but difficulties must come because this is the material world. Although no one wants difficulties, but they always must come. It's the very nature of the material world. But we don't really believe that. We think by our endeavor or by our intelligence, we'll arrange a situation that will be just so nice and peaceful and happy. Do you think people tend to think like that?
Yes, sir.
Do you sometimes tend to think like that? Yeah, I also do. But I've noticed that it doesn't happen ever. There's always something in the way. So if we can just somehow use whatever difficulty there is, somehow see that somehow or another there may be a blessing for Krishna, from Krishna in that, to see that as true vision. Okay, now here's another difficult question, but I won't make it so difficult because I'll tell you the answer before I ask it. And that is those 4 verses that Vyasadeva we caught someone, and I'm not sure who it was though. They shut it off before I could look at them with arrows in my eyes. The 4 verses, Bhakti Yogena Manasi, that Vyasadeva focused his consciousness in bhakti, with devotion. Bhakti Yogena Manasi, Samyak completely Pranihite Amale. Then it was pure, his consciousness was pure. And a Pashat Purusha Purna, he saw the Supreme Lord, the complete Lord. Purna means full. He saw the Supreme Lord, a Pashat. He saw the Supreme Lord, Purna, completely. That means with his energies. He saw the Lord with his energies that descended, that vision, that revelation, descended into his consciousness. He saw, we will translate that as he saw Krishna, but how do we know? This comes up later. He says, Krishna Parama Purushe. He sees Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And Maya, he sees that Maya, Apasya, that it's behind him. He sees Krishna. And because Krishna is the Param Satyam, he's the absolute truth. There's nothing outside of him. There's nothing external to him. There's nothing that is beyond him. This is amazing, actually. And we'll talk a little bit, perhaps, if Krishna allows, why this is amazing. And he's Parama Purusha. He's the Supreme Person. He's a person, and yet he's everything, and nothing is outside of him. Why is that amazing? Of course, you're all devotees, so you naturally understand that, but why is that amazing, that he's a person? Why is that amazing? Chamatkar. Why? Although he's a person, he's unlimited. Because I'm a person. Say, what hand do you write with? Right hand. So that means you don't write with your left hand. Am I correct? And you walk on your feet. Yes? You don't walk on your ears. So if you do one thing, if you're specific, that limits you, it would seem. If I'm here, I'm not there. But although Krishna is a person, he has a form. A form means it has boundaries, limitations in a sense. But Krishna is unlimited despite him having a form. And despite him being a person and having particular characteristics, he's unlimited. And despite him being in one place, he's everywhere. So can you conceive, this question is directed to you, If someone is in one place, can you conceive, understand that he could be everywhere at the same time? No, that's called achintya shakti, inconceivable. That means we cannot fit the fact that he's unlimited and a person within our tiny, finite brains. He has achintya shakti, unlimited potencies. When Brahma, which is this is described in the 13th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, someone beeped. That could mean that their phone is on. Brahma, he stole away Krishna's calves and his cows, the calves and his boyfriends, his friends. And then he came back in a moment and he saw those boys and calves were still there. And Krishna was there. And then he saw that each of the boys and each of the calves turned into four-armed Vishnu forms. And each of these Vishnu forms, and there were unlimited boys and unlimited calves, and each of these Vishnu forms had unlimited power. Now think about that. Krishna had expanded into unlimited forms, and each of those unlimited forms, each and every one of those unlimited forms had unlimited power. And there was Krishna standing there, an innocent cowherd boy, young, with his flute tucked in his belt and the yogurt and rice in his hand. And when Brahma, who was so intelligent, he got a glimpse in this way of what unlimited power was. And it shocked him so much he became stunned. He couldn't think anymore. He practically fainted. Inconceivable power. And then in his prayers he said, one of his prayers he said, that other people may say they know something about Krishna, the Ishvara, but I will never say that. Because whatever I know is so small compared to the actual Supreme Person. So that was the first verse, and then he saw Jiva Samahito, or something, Samahito, Jiva. He saw that Jiva, different from Krishna, that external energy, Maya was behind Krishna, was under his control. But the Jivas were completely bewildered by that Maya. And although they were superior energy, spiritual energy, they thought themselves of the material world. And because they thought themselves of the material world, the material body, the material mind, limited, they were paro, they were supreme. They became controlled. Because they thought like that, they became controlled by the Maya Shakti, which means the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And they were doing things under the control of Maya, and then they were entangled, trapped by further entrapped, like being in prison and then committing a crime. When you're in prison, it entangles you more. So everything that every living entity, every soul does under the control of the material nature. Did you beep? No, I didn't beep. I didn't do it. Everything that everyone does, everything, under the control of the modes of material nature, entangles them further, more and more karma. And therefore we say, because we've had unlimited births, that means we have unlimited karma. And therefore we say that to have a human birth is so rare, and we should take advantage of that birth to and not use it to be intelligent, sophisticated animals. This is the basic preaching of Srila Prabhupada's movement. Human life is so rare. Use it responsibly to understand who we are, what is the purpose of life. At least ask those questions. How many people do you know actually even ask that question? What is the purpose of my life? I mean, I don't. To people in general, because I only deal most with devotees, practically speaking. But do people in general question that? What is the purpose of my life? In general? You're shaking your head, no. What's your experience? Who has a job and works in the world? Yeah. Do people ask that question? They do. Yes, you know people like that. Do you? They just tend to just work and work and work and work and work and work. Yeah, work is worship, they say even. You know what Prabhupada compared that to? He compared to having a donkey, and they take the donkey and they put a stick over here, and then from the stick in front of him, they put a carrot. And the donkey's always running to try to catch the carrot. But do you think he ever catches the carrot? No, I also don't think he ever. Maybe at the end of the day, after making the horse or the work all day long, somebody gives him the carrot and he thinks, oh, great. What a nice boss I have. But you should know, for every carrot he gives you, he takes 100. So the jiva gets himself entangled in this way, even though he is para, he is supreme. And then he creates so many anarthas, means that so many things he thinks that are valuable, thinks that they'll bring me happiness, but they don't. So therefore, the next verse, anartha upamam sakshad bhakti, that these anarthas, all these unwanted things, unnecessary things, desires, can be removed by bhakti yoga. Anartha upasamam sakshat bhakti yoga to Krishna adhoksaje. Lokasya ajanato vidvan. The people do not know this, and therefore Chakre Satvita Samhita, Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam to teach this, that there's a real life, and that's in the next verse. That Yasmin Vai Shriyamana, by hearing this Bhagavatam, Krishna Paramapurushe, now here it is mentioned that Krishna, the Paramapurusha, the Supreme Lord, Bhakti Upadhyate Pumsam, that bhakti to him, to Krishna, by hearing the Bhagavatam, arises in the heart. And soka moha bhayapaha, soka, lamentation, moha, illusion, and fear disappears. Fear disappears. This is the foundational principle of material existence. We say eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Defending means fear. Fear is at the essence of material existence. Everyone is afraid, except for you. Because you have Krishna. So when when one actually gives himself to Krishna, I am yours, Krishna, I am yours, I surrender. Savadamam Prityaja, Mame Kam Sharanam Braja, and surrenders to Krishna. He loses fear because he trusts Krishna will protect me. Masucha, and he doesn't worry. So just imagine what life would be like if we were free from fear, if there was no fear. That we actually trusted that I'm trying my best to serve Krishna, follow his instructions. I'm trying my best to serve him, and he's promised to protect me. Just imagine how life would be completely different. I mean, I could say that for myself. just that trust or faith in Krishna. That I'm serving him, I've given myself to him, and he will protect me. That's a nice meditation, actually. So after Vyasadeva had this revelation, and he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam, he wanted to teach it to his son, whose name was Sukadeva Goswami. And Sukadeva Goswami was already Brahman realized. He understood the oneness of everything. Everything being, from the Vaishnavas understand, everything is the energy of Krishna. He is the Param Satyam. Nothing can exist outside of Krishna. He's all-inclusive. He's the absolute truth. And he wanted to give this understanding of Krishna to Brahman realized Sukadeva. And when Sukadeva was born, he just left home. He had no attachment because he was already situated on the Brahman platform. But Vyasadeva wanted to teach him the Bhagavatam. Does anyone know what he did? He wanted to teach him, and Sukadeva was already Brahman realized. That means he had no attachment to the material world. Does anyone know? Raise your hand if you know what Vyasadeva did. Yes, Prabhu.
Vyasadeva sent his disciples.
He sent his disciples.
And the disciples were singing the glories of Krishna.
There were some specific verses. It says it. You know those verses? Please. So he sent out disciples just chanting these verses. And Sukadeva heard these verses.
So first one was the merciful nature of the Lord. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayapya yadapya sadhavi lebhe gatim dhatrimuchitam tatonyam kamba dayalum sharanam vrajemam.
Could you please translate that?
So here, in this verse, it's a glorification of the Lord. Firstly, the pastime of Putana is described. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam. So Baki, the sister of Bakasur, she had come with stanakala kutam, poison on her breast. Jigam saya pyayapyayadi sadhavi. So she was a sadhavi, and she had the mood to kill Krishna. And what did Krishna do to her? So that's given here, where it said that Krishna gave her the position of Dhatri, or nurse, a mother in the spiritual world.
She came to kill Krishna in a particular way, as if she was trying to give Krishna, feed Krishna her breast milk. But because she even came, Savesha Bhutanadi, even though she just came in the dress, looking like, disguised as a devotee trying to serve Krishna, Krishna gave her mercifully the position of Dhatri, nurse. So this is Krishna, Kamvadaya. Who could find someone more kind than Krishna to serve? Does you work, yes? Is your boss like that? You try to serve him and he thinks, oh, he's trying to, even though he looks like he's trying to serve me, I will give him so much mercy. And does that sound like your boss? Rather, it's... Is it possible to satisfy your boss, actually? What do you think? Unless you have a really special boss.
Usually don't, because they have more expectations.
Whatever you do, they put the carrot a little bit further. And there was another verse too. Do you know that one as well?
Varha pidam natavaravapu karnayo karnikaram vipradvasa kanakakapisham vaijayantim chamaram randran venuradhara sudhe purayan gopa vrunde vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishadita kirti. So Krishna, who has a very beautiful form of a dancer, Natavaravapu. So he's having beautiful peacock feather on his head. He has beautiful flowers on his ear. He's wearing a Vaijayanti mala, playing the flute. and with his friends he's entering Vrindavan. And all of them are glorifying Krishna.
So this verse describes the beauty of Krishna. So these two verses describing the compassion of Krishna and the beauty of Krishna. Sukadev, these verses entered the... Thank you very much. You said them so nicely, actually. These verses entered the ear of Sukadev Goswami, and he was so attracted. He wanted to know, where did these verses come from? And when he found out they came from the Bhagavatam, and that his father wanted to teach him the Bhagavatam, he went and desired to hear it, and he heard it. He heard the whole Bhagavatam, and then he taught it to Narada Muni. And Narada Muni wanted Vyasadeva, his student, to learn it and expand upon it. So in this way, the disciplic succession was extended based on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sukadev Goswami was already Brahman realized. He understood everything, and yet he was attracted to hearing the Bhagavatam. Someone who's fully satisfied, has no material desires, is attracted to hear the Bhagavatam. So then the question is asked, why? He was already satisfied. Why did he want something more? And the answer is the famous verse, Atmaramas cha muneyo. You know that verse? You say. So no matter all the different kinds of people who are self-satisfied, still they're attracted to the glories and qualities of Lord Hari. That was the answer. And this verse is a very important verse, and Lord Chaitanya explained it in the 24th chapter of Madhya Lila. He explains it to Sanatana Goswami in 61 different ways. It's such an important verse that has such deep meaning. And then Sukadev began speaking the Bhagavatam, and he became dear to the devotees instead of just being Brahman realized. And the devotees became dear to him. And then eventually, as described in the end of the first canto, he begins speaking this Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, who was about to die, leave this world. So that's some of the parts of this canto. But then the topic changes. Does anyone remember what the title of this class was supposed to be, or is? The title is, but whether we'll actually be able to complete it. You know? What is it?
Vyasa introduces Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna through...
So we hear, thank you, we hear... That was quite a cough, wasn't it? What should I do? Okay, now I got it. Just let me try it. That didn't work either. Now I can't cough. I know what to do. Magic pill. Hopefully this will stop me from coughing. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. That's one way to stop coughing. So the topic changes here. And the topic changes, and what's going to happen now in the 7th chapter is, oh no. Okay, here. Okay. That wasn't a real cough, but now I know what to do. Yeah. So Vyasadeva, we've just heard of this Parama Purusha, Krishna, the Purna Purusha, the Parama Purusha. We've just heard about him. Now, the whole Bhagavatam is going to be about him. And just hearing this Bhagavatam, one is going to develop love for this Supreme Person. And now Vyasadeva is going to introduce him. Vyasadeva is going to introduce him. This is the first time we've heard him described in many ways already earlier. Satyam Param Dhimahi, the absolute truth in the first verse, etc. And then we've heard Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swami. But here we're going to see Krishna in action for the first time, this Supreme Person. So we want to, it's interesting, how is he going to be introduced? Because how is someone introduced is the first, is the way it describes that how you meet a person and how when the person departs is very important in all relationships. So how is Krishna going to be introduced? How do the hearers of the Bhagavatam first see Krishna? How does he want to be seen and known? First introduction. We will hear that. So here it begins. And the beginning is after the battle of Kurukshetra is finished. So in the battle of Kurukshetra, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people died. And Duryodhana was almost dead. He had been beaten by Bhima. Everyone knows that pastime. He had been beaten by Bhima, and Krishna had, oh no, that was Jarasandha. He told him where his weak point was. Krishna had arranged that Duryodhana, his whole body was iron, strong as iron. But there was one point that was weak. So there's a pastime about this. And that was his thigh. But you're not allowed to hit, when you have the proper weight, when you're fighting, you can't hit below the belt. But Krishna told Bhima to hit him in his thigh, which was his weak point, which was not the right way. And Duryodhana was defeated by Krishna's plan with Bhima. So he was almost dead. And the Pandavas practically were the only surviving people after the battle. And Aswatthama, the son of Dronacharya. And Aswatthama, he thought that he would please the Duryodhana by killing all the Pandavas as they slept, but he didn't kill them. He killed the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas. It's hard to describe, but I almost shouldn't, but he cut off their heads. They were sleeping, they were young boys. And he cut off their heads, and he brought the heads to Duryodhana, who was almost dead himself. And Duryodhana thought that maybe he's bringing me the head of Bhima. And he was happy, but then he saw that, oh no, it's these boys, the son of the Pandavas. The Pandavas are still alive, and these boys have been killed. That means our dynasty, the Pandavas were part of the Kuru dynasty, our whole dynasty has no future. It is finished. So Aswatthama did this to please Duryodhana, but Duryodhana himself wasn't pleased at all. So, not in the least. So, when Draupadi, the mother of these boys, when she saw what had happened in this cruel way for no purpose, after everything was finished, it's one thing that warriors die, but these boys who were innocent, they were killed mercilessly. So she was crying and crying, her sons. And Arjuna, he decided will pacify her, make her peaceful. And he said, I will present you with the head of that person who has cut off the heads of your sons. I will cut off his head with arrows shot from my Gandiva bow. They're Kshatriyas, so he said, you're crying? And now you will get your revenge. I promise you, you will get your revenge. And then, and only then, I shall wipe the tears from your eyes after you have seen his head in my hand. And then, according to the Bhagavatam, he says something that is how to say it, it's hard for a person who's not a Kshatriya to understand. After burning your son's body, you can take after the funeral bath, standing on his head. It sounds pretty. So then, Arjuna gets in his chariot, and the verse says, "Priyam Valgu Vititijaupai," that he gets in there with Mitra Sutta. He gets in there in the chariot he's guided by the infallible Lord, Achyuta, who is his friend. Here is the introduction to Krishna. Arjuna is in a chariot on a mission, and his chariot driver is that Supreme Lord. He's infallible. He doesn't fall from his position by taking the position. The all-powerful Lord serving the driver of Arjuna and his friend. It is possible to have a friendly relationship with this Supreme Lord who's all-powerful. It is possible to have a relationship with him where he actually even serves his devotee, who is his friend. So Arjuna gets into the chariot, and he's following Asvatthama, the son of his Dronacharya, who taught him the martial arts skills. So Asvatthama's fleeing. He's trying to escape because he's done something horrible. He doesn't want to be caught, especially by Arjuna, who wants to kill him. So he's on his chariot, and he's trying to escape from Arjuna. And Arjuna is on his chariot, chasing him with Krishna driving his chariot. And Asvatthama becomes fearful, terrified, because he's done something terrible. So he's trying to escape, and Arjuna is trying to capture him. And Asvatthama's horses become tired. And he can't. He knows he can't escape by fleeing. So he decides, I have to save my life. So although he knows how to throw, how to retract it. He's been taught by his father, Dronacharya, how to shoot the Brahmastra, but he doesn't withdraw it. So it's improper for him to use it. But out of fear, designed to save his own life, he takes out, well, it describes what he does. He's in panic. Great fear. What's the difference between panic and fear? Raise your hand if you want to. Did you raise your hand? Are you sure? It looked like you did. Okay. What's the difference between panic and fear? Yes.
When someone feels the fear but ignores it, but panic is the next level that
It's so much higher fear.
much higher. That level you can't.
You don't know what to do. Like say when there's heavy traffic, you may be fearful about crossing the street. But if you're panic-stricken, if you're fearful, you're careful maybe. But if you're panic-stricken, it's such a high level that you don't know what to do even. So he didn't know what to do, so he immediately tried something, and he threw this Brahmastra in panic. And then he tried to kill Arjuna in this way. He did Achman, and then he chanted the sacred hymns with sound vibration. He readied this Brahmastra to be shot, which is like a nuclear weapon directed at a specific, almost like a laser but more powerful, directed at a specific person. So he chanted those hymns, and he unleashed them, that Brahmastra, at Arjuna. And suddenly, a great light that was bright and glaring like the sun came shooting towards Arjuna, and he thought his own life was in danger. He became fearful, but he didn't panic. Now, Arjuna was a devotee, a great devotee. What did he, a great devotee, do when he was filled with fear and didn't know what to do? Yes, Ram Ram. He turned to Krishna, who was there with him. Even though Krishna was his servant, as the driver, even though Krishna was his friend, when in fear, he turned to Krishna. He feared for his life. That's Gotripte Varanam Tata. Krishna is my maintainer. Krishna is my protector. And in any difficulty, a devotee turns to Krishna. And that Sharanagati, that surrender, that I've given myself to Krishna, so naturally I feel myself protected by Krishna. This is what happens when one actually is a devotee of Krishna. Even though he knows maybe that his service isn't perfect, he's serving Krishna, he's given himself to Krishna, he's dedicated his life to Krishna. So he naturally turns to Krishna for protection. So what does he say? So this again is how Vyasadeva is introducing Krishna, that he's going to protect his devotee. He's serving his devotee, he's protecting his devotee. This is how Vyasadeva wants us to meet Krishna, this person who he wants us to have love for, which will soka moha bhaya, remove all our illusion and fear and lamentation. He wants to develop love, he wants us to develop a loving relationship with him. That's the purpose of life. That's the purpose of human life. That's the purpose, that's the natural swadharma, the sanatan dharma of every soul. And Vyasadeva wants us to see Krishna in this way. So he turns to Krishna and says, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabaho, Almighty Om Krishna, Bhaktanam Abhayankara. You are the one who removes the fear of your devotees. And again, fear is what it means to be in the material world. It is what every living entity has in common. I was once before, in Vrindavan, has anyone not seen the MVT in Vrindavan? Everyone knows what the MVT is. Well, before it was built, you know what the MVT is? No. Okay. It's what is the MVT? It's a compound where the devotees buy or rent rooms, houses, little houses and rooms. So while it was being built, it's Mayapur Vrindavan Trust. Prabhupada established that with the purpose of, in case the deities in Mayapur and Vrindavan, if they, at some point, there's such a difficulty that there's no money to take care of them, the Mayapur Vrindavan Trust Prabhupada set up was to provide funds for their care in an emergency. Did you know that? Yeah. Did you know that? Did you know that? Well, now you know that. You know that forever. So ignorance is temporary, but knowledge is eternal. So, So that was Prabhupada's mood. Not him, that let me take care of the deities have come. Krishna Balaram, Kornatai, Radha Shyamsundar, Radha Madhav, they've come on my request. It's my duty to take care of them. This was Prabhupada's great devotion. So, Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvam Eko Dayamananam Apavagos Asi Samsriti. Here's Prabhupada's translation. Oh, my Lord Krishna, this is what Arjuna turns to Krishna. You are the almighty personality of Godhead. And remember, he's driving Arjuna's chariot. There is no limit to your different energies. Unlimited energies. Unlimited power. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the heart of your devotees. So perhaps there's a message in there for us too. Because he's unlimitedly powerful. He can remove our fear. Everyone, if in difficulty, looks for shelter, but who has the unlimited power that's going to protect us? So someone may want to protect us, our parents, our friends may want to protect us, but because their power is... because their power is limited, they can't protect us. So this is what Arjuna is saying. He turns to Krishna. You are competent to instill, place fearlessness in the heart of your devotees. Abhay Charana Radhavinda. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation, freedom from those miseries in you alone. You are the original personality of Godhead. This is an expansion of that verse that what Vyasadeva saw in his meditation, in his revelation. He saw Krishna, the Parama Purusha, and he saw his energies. So he's saying you expand yourself over the creation, and yet you are beyond, you are transcendental to these material energies. The material energies behind you are paschayat. You are not controlled by them, but still they're under your control. And you have cast away the effects of the material energy by your spiritual potency. He situated Sambhavam Yatmamaya in his own spiritual energy, and the material energy is far away. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. He's describing this supreme Purusha who's so powerful, but yet he's driving the chariot like a driver. Does any of you have drivers for your car, or everyone drives your own car? But the driver is the servant. You say, go here, you do this, Senor, beyond my day. So Krishna is serving his devotee, and yet at the same time he's all powerful because he has all the potencies. And you're always situated in eternal bliss, and he is always blissful and transcendental knowledge. He is Sarvagya, he knows everything. And then he continues speaking to Arjuna. And yet, although you are beyond the material energy, you still act as if you're a human being, execute the principles of liberation of moksha, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, just to set an example for the conditioned souls. So you're acting as if you're one of them, but you are still the supreme person who has unlimited power, but you're acting in such a way. And thus, so there's so much philosophy in his prayers actually that are very relevant. So someone could ask, why does that supreme person who's all powerful, who's in his own energy, he's not forced to come here by Maya, why does he come to the material world? You descend as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends. Now listen to this. Why does Krishna come? To remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and who are wrapped, means immersed in meditation upon you. To benefit your friends, especially those whose devotion is focused on you and who are always thinking of you. So when you hear that, what do you think? Yes. A friend in need, especially if he's all-powerful. But there's another side of that too. So in every relationship, in case you haven't noticed, there's two parts. The other person's part and your part in every relationship. So usually when there's a fight in the family between husband and wife, the husband is thinking of what she's not doing right, and she's thinking of what he's not doing right, and they're both right about each other, but not about themselves. So here it is explaining Krishna's part, but it's also explaining the part of the living entity who is a devotee. He's exclusive. That means ekeha kurunanda. And he's always thinking about him. And Krishna is especially inclined to those devotees, to those pure souls who are always thinking about him in service. In other words, they are great devotees. But he's even inclined to those who are trying their best to. And then he gets to the immediate reason why he's calling Krishna. O Lord of Lords, how is this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around, even though he knows what it is? Where does it come from, this Brahmastra that's heading towards me to kill me with such speed? Where does this come from? I do not understand it. And Krishna then says what it is, because we have so many problems and maybe we don't know what our problems are. But Krishna knows, because he knows everything and he's in everyone's heart. So he says, the answer is the question, what's the cause? Know from me, Krishna said, that this is the act of Aswatthama, the son of Jonah. And he has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, the Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. So it's shot, it's in motion, and he can't withdraw it. And Arjuna doesn't know what to do. He has helplessly done this out of fear for his death, which is going to happen so soon at your hands, because you are chasing him because of the terrible thing he has done in killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi. So he tells it. And then he answers the question. Arjuna didn't ask, what should I do? How to escape? But Krishna tells him, O Arjuna, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in the military science, you know how to throw the Brahmastra, but not like Aswatthama. He can throw it, but he can't withdraw it. You can subdue this weapon of Aswatthama's with the power of your own weapon. So he tells him to throw your weapon at that Brahmastra, and then when you withdraw your weapon, both will be removed. He solves his problem, the problem of his devotee. Not only is he serving the devotee, he's solving his problems. And that's mostly what we want our relationship with Krishna for, so he can solve all our problems. So hearing this from Krishna, Arjuna did Achmana, and he circumambulated the Lord, and he threw out his Brahmastra, and there's a great, great, great explosion when the two combined, and it made the whole population of the world fearful. And then Arjuna, seeing this, he retracted his Brahmastra, and both Brahmastras were retracted, just as Krishna desired. Interesting that Arjuna said that, save me, and instead of directly saving him, he told him what to do. He told Arjuna what to do. And later on, I doubt we'll have the time to I wanted to go as far as that, but I'll tell you a little bit of what happens. That when Aswatthama, after this, there's some more incidents. He tries to kill all the Pandavas, including Maharaj Parikshit, in the womb. And what Krishna does, instead of telling Arjuna, this is what you should do to save yourself, he just dispels with his own energy, with his chakra. He just removes it all himself, the fiery nuclear weapons thrown by Aswatthama. So in one case, Krishna tells Arjuna what to do to save him. But he had the power to save him himself. He could have just gone, chakra, but he didn't. Arjuna, this is what you should do. You're a Kshatriya. This is your honor at stake. You do it by your own power. And with later on, as we may hear, he tells Brahmastras to kill all the Pandavas. And the Pandavas took out their weapons. Their weapons were going to be insufficient. And Krishna dispelled the Brahmastra by his own chakra. He could have done it there, and he did it here. This is Krishna. Sometimes he will act in one way, and sometimes he'll act in another way. And we don't know which way he's going to act, and sometimes we think, is he really going to protect me, or is he really going to do this? And that is very healthy for us, actually, because just like, did I ever ask you the question of, when's your next exam?
A couple of weeks.
Okay. Are you in anxiety yet, or are you waiting till later to be in anxiety? Now, there's the current system of giving exams in school, but the actual reason for exams, not the current reason, what's the reason they give exams now? Do you know why?
The same reason as before.
That's an answer that doesn't answer the question. But good try. Yes. To increase your fear, yeah, to make sure to get your mother to beat you more and say, no, you have to work, you have to do it, are you studying enough, are you studying enough? You're not studying enough, you're not studying enough. Yes. To increase memory. To test the memory. Yeah. No. The actual reason is self-assessment. So like the teacher is trying to teach you something, and then the teacher has to know how effective his teaching is being. Because if I'm teaching you something and no one understands it, I may be teaching you something wonderful, but if no one understands what I'm teaching, then I should adjust my teaching style and techniques. So on one side, examinations are for the teacher to know how effective his teaching techniques are. Next time your teacher tells you you're going to have an exam, you'll say, in this way we shall know how effective your teaching has been. Because if I don't do well, it's your fault. That means you haven't taught very well. Is that all right, teacher? So I'm going to mark you in exam. And if you don't do well, you will fail. But there's another reason too, is for the students' self-assessment to understand how much they're learning and how much they're able to learn what's been taught. So in life, we will get so many examinations, so many tests, and therefore self-assessment. Because Krishna is a good teacher, we know that. But how well I'm doing with life's examinations. Who do I turn to when something happens the way I don't want it to happen? And I become afraid or I become angry. Do I turn to Krishna? Or do I just get angry? Or do I just become fearful or even panic? What do I do in life when tested by life? And every day we get tested by life. Have you noticed that? Unless you're one of those rare persons who everything happens exactly the way they want. Does that happen to you? Did it ever happen to you on any day?
Not through the whole day.
One
Some part of it.
part of, yes, it can be, but not the whole day. So how do we deal when things go our way? How do we react to that? And how do we deal when things don't go our way? This is self-assessment. We should be introspective and think about this. Because life is a preparation for death. And at the end of our life, we hope to pass the final examination by really turning to Krishna. So every day we have an opportunity for self-assessment to see how we're doing in life, if we're learning the real lessons of life. Where is our shelter? Do any of you have the experience that you're in a rush or something and you leave home quickly and you forget your mobile phone? And you think, oh no. Terror enters our heart. What happens if there's an atomic bomb or something and I don't have my mobile phone? I don't know, who knows what we think. But that feeling of missing, not having the thing that's going to protect us or something like, do you know what I mean? Did you ever leave your mobile phone at home? Yes, and how do you feel? Helpless. That's called Maya. But of course I'm teasing you, but it's all of us. We're so dependent on things other than Krishna. When I was, no, I won't tell that story. But yeah, we want to develop our dependence on Krishna. That's the essence of life. That's Sharanagati. That's Gotipte Varanamtata. We want to learn how to turn to Krishna when there's difficulty. Like Vidura, as we mentioned yesterday, like the Avanti Brahmana. They learned how to turn to Krishna. Enough of these things, these false shelters, durasrai. Enough of this illusion. I'm going to turn to Krishna. And they put their life at stake. Will Krishna protect me? Unless you test it in life, how will you pass the final test at the time of death? That's a devotee's life. He's trusting Krishna, he's in Krishna's service, he's trusting Krishna. And he sees, well, is Krishna protecting me? And therefore his experience, his faith is based on not just faith, it's based on experience. And he can become very strong, as Prabhupada is so strong, as so many devotees are so strong. So Arjuna, back to our story, Arjuna then captured Aswatthama, and his eyes were red out of anger. And he tied him up with ropes as if he was an animal. And he wanted to take him to the military camp where the Pandavas and Draupadi were there. And Krishna looked at them, not with angry eyes, but with his lotus eyes. And he said, "Don't show him mercy. Don't release him. He has killed innocent children in their sleep." And then he gives reasons. He tells him basically, I want him killed for his own well-being. He has done something so terrible. If he's not punished by killing, he will have to suffer later. And I heard you promise Draupadi that you would bring forth this person's head. Kill him. Immediately, Krishna wanted to test his devotees, Arjuna. Arjuna brought him to the camp. Because Arjuna's eyes were red like copper, anger. Krishna's eyes were still like lotus flowers. He wasn't angry. He had his purpose in what he does. So Arjuna brought him, Krishna driving the chariot still, brought him to the camp. And Draupadi saw the son of her teacher bound up, a Brahmana bound up like this. And she showed him respect just for the position, even though he had done something horrible to her. She couldn't tolerate seeing Aswatthama bound by ropes. And she said, "Release him. He is a Brahmana, our spiritual master. And it was by Dronacharya, his father's mercy, that you learned the military science, O Arjuna. And he's existing in the form of his son. And his mother, Kripi, who she kept alive just because of her son. It is not proper that he's punished." And then she said with such a soft heart, "I am crying now, relentlessly, with tears, because my sons have been killed. Why should innocent Kripi have to cry like me? Release him." Krishna said, "Kill him." Draupadi said, "Release him." Yudhisthira Maharaj supported Draupadi, this intelligent husband. What does that say? Happy wife, happy life. But he didn't support her for that reason. But he supported her because she was speaking on the principles of religion, and she was full of mercy. Her words were glorious, full of mercy, and they were innocent. And then, so Draupadi said, "Don't kill him." Nakul and Sahadev, Yudhisthira Maharaj's younger brothers, and also Satyaki, Arjuna, and Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who was the son of Devaki, and all the ladies agreed with Draupadi. Krishna changed sides at this time. So he's killed him, and now, yes, Yudhisthira Maharaj, because no one wanted to go against the desire of Yudhisthira. Except for Bhima, who was so angry, and he said, "Kill him." He was in an angry mood. He killed sleeping children. And there was no purpose in this. There was no benefit in this even. And he killed these innocent sleeping children. He must be killed. And it said that Krishna adopted 4 arms at that point just to make sure everyone kept apart when they disagreed. And then Krishna said to Arjuna, the friend of the Brahmana shouldn't be killed, but he's an aggressor. He must be killed. So Krishna then took both sides. You should kill him, but you should not kill him. But then you have to act to satisfy Draupadi and Yudhisthira, and you also have to satisfy Bhishmadev and me. Bhima Sen and me. So first thing he protected Arjuna from Ashwatthama. Now, what is he displaying? Even if his devotee is in an impossible situation, he has to kill him and not kill him. Impossible to do both. It's like some people say it's raining and not raining simultaneously. They say that if God is all powerful, can he create something that's so big he can't lift it? Did you ever hear that one? So if he can do anything, can he create something so big and so heavy he can't lift it? So they think that they catch you in this way because if he can't do that, then he can't do everything. And if he can do that, that means he can't lift it, so he can't do everything. So they think they trick you in that way. But devotees know that it's just words. It's an impossible paradox that he can't do that. It doesn't mean anything. It's an impossible situation. So Arjuna, when presented this, Krishna inspired him to know just what to do. And he killed him and not killed him simultaneously by cutting off this jewel that was on his head and then drove him out of the camp. And he lost all his effulgence. So he killed him by dishonoring him and taking away his potencies. But he left him alive. So by Krishna's inspiration, Arjuna had the intelligence, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, Yena Mamupiyantate, to kill him and not kill him simultaneously. So he protected his devotee, even in an impossible circumstance. This is how Vyasadeva introduces Krishna. And then all the Pandavas and everyone lamented for all the deaths that had occurred because it was all in the family. And then they performed 3 sacrifices, horse sacrifices. And then it was time for Krishna to leave because the battle was won and the Pandavas were now in their rightful place. Now we'll speak more about this tomorrow, Krishna willing. But then, as we said, then Ashwatthama, when driven from the camp, he shot his Brahmastra to kill. He was so upset that he had been insulted in this way. And that's the way people are. They do something terrible and then you catch them and punish them and they're angry at you. Has that ever happened to you? You've seen that? Have you ever seen that? Have you?
I haven't seen that. I've been with the person.
You've seen it from the inside. Krishna was also like that. He got caught stealing butter. He was angry. Well, when his mother wouldn't put him down in the Damodar Leela, he became angry. And we always justify. One psychologist I once heard said, the most dangerous thing about a human being is that he has a good reason for everything he does. So he, Ashwatthama, shot his Brahmastra to finish off all the Pandavas, including Maharaj Parikshit, who was in the womb of Uttara, Abhimanyu's wife, the son of Arjuna, and she came running to Krishna, and Krishna protected the child in the womb and protected all the Pandavas just with his chakra. So again, he protected his devotee. He has the power to do it himself. The first time he instructed Arjuna, this time he did it himself. This is Krishna. And this is how Vyasadeva wants you to see Krishna in such a wonderful, attractive way. So merciful, so kind to his devotees, especially those who worship him exclusively, means focused on him alone, and who are always thinking about him. Satatam kirtiyanto mam. What's the rest of the verse? And also Machita, Matkata Pranam, Bodhiyantas Paras. So our training in devotional service to become like this kind of devotee. You're also patient after a long day. You've just sat and listened, even though some of us are a little bit tired, maybe a little bit. What time did you wake up this morning? Yeah. And did you rest during the day at all? Are you tired a little bit? Huh? Okay. That's what I say too when someone catches me sleeping. I wasn't sleeping. It's fine. No, I was just resting my head on my chin and closing my eyes so I could hear better. It's funny how we all do the same tricks. Another one, a good one, is that you hide your head behind the person's head in front of you. That's also a good one, but you didn't. Hare Krishna. Let me just check and see. 8:05. This was more stories than yesterday's. Yesterday was more philosophical too. Yesterday you were more tired than today, yes? And you? Were you able to listen today, little one? And you? Good. Thank you very much. You all very kindly listened attentively. Are there any questions at this time?
Today we have a microphone.
Oh, okay. Sounds like there's a dentist out there. How many of you like to go to the dentist? Do you go to the dentist sometime? Does he do that?
I've gone once or twice.
Once or twice. Good.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you for the wonderful class.
Hare
I
Krishna.
have one question. So when the master was coming to Arjuna, but he already was a very great devotee of Lord. So why did he feel that fear at that moment? Although he remembered Lord and Lord was with him, why did he felt that fear at the first place?
That we are at the...
Why did he felt that fear?
Yeah. So, of course, the easiest way to answer the question, it was Krishna's desire to teach us, just like the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So we would learn. So that's the easiest way. But there's another point that comes out when Sanatana Goswami asks Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why am I suffering? Everyone calls me a pandit, a learned person, but still I don't know who I am. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to him by saying, you know the answers to this, but it's the nature of a sadhu to question, just to confirm what he already knows. So even though Arjuna knew, we could say, but still he took shelter of Krishna just to make sure that his own realization was correct. So there's an instruction in that for us in that too, that we may know the right answer to something, but still we should check to make sure that our realization is correct. Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, then we're all aligned properly. Did that answer your question? Okay. I'm not in control of the microphone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You said that when we have difficulties, we have to turn towards Krishna. So when we turn, because we are chanting, it's easy to say, please help me, Krishna. So what more does it mean to turn towards Krishna other than saying, please help me? What else can we do?
Well, it depends what the circumstance was. Is like Arjuna just didn't say, please help me. First he glorified Krishna. Prabhupada mentions that in the Bhagavatam, in one of the purports, that before we make our request to Krishna, it's polite, almost the proper way to offer prayers is to acknowledge his position and speak his glories. Prabhupada says that in one of the purports. So, and then he just didn't say, please help me. He described the difficulty and said, only you can remove the fear. Because sometimes we know what to do and even we do it, but still the fear remains in our heart because we don't trust the circumstance fully, even though we may know what to do. But if Krishna says, do this, and we do what he says, then we can be fearless. And even if things don't work out exactly the way we had hoped, we trust his decision that everything, there must be some mercy in it, some reason for everything. And it gives us an opportunity to glorify Krishna, difficult circumstances. Kunti Devi, we won't read that tomorrow fully, but Kunti Devi says, we may read that, let difficulties happen again and again, because otherwise I tend to forget you all the time. When things are good, I just think about, I deserve how wonderful, or I don't, maybe, I'm in the present of the happiness of things are going well. But in difficulty, the tendency is to turn to Krishna. So sometimes some devotees ask that question, that I find that when things are good, I don't think about Krishna. But then I find them always in difficulty. And then I'll think about Krishna. And they say, well, no wonder Krishna puts you always in difficulty, because you forget him all the time otherwise. So I don't know if I answered your question, that we should say that we should remember the glories of Krishna, not only help me, help me, help me, help me, as if all existence is about me. We're very insignificant actually, but still Krishna will take care. But not always the way we want. I don't know if you've noticed that he has his way. Like with Arjuna, he said, Arjuna, you do it. And then with Uttara and the Pandavas at that time, he did it himself. Any questions on this side? Yeah. We'll just have 3 minutes more, because yesterday we ended a bit late.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much for this nice talk. So generally we see in Bhagavatam that the devotees, they offer prayers, they are in accordance to the situation which they are in. Here Arjuna had fear of Brahmastra, and so initially he prayed that you instill fearlessness in hearts of your devotees. But then later on he prayed, he gave some another prayer that you are beyond purview of material energy and you execute 4 principles of religion. So why out of nowhere suddenly these kind of prayers or words not in?
but there's a purport again where Prabhupada says, first you acknowledge Krishna's position and you glorify him. So, as I mentioned, those specific prayers really tell more about this Purusha that we've just heard, this Purusha Purna, this Purusha Param that we've just heard. So he's expanding our knowledge, our understanding of the glories of Krishna, because remember that Vyasadeva saw that just by hearing about Krishna, that love for him will sprout. So we're hearing about his qualities, how kind he is, how powerful he is, how he takes care of his devotees, and how he serves his devotees, and how he's the friend of his devotees, and how he's still the Supreme Lord and all-powerful, and he's a Achyuta, infallible. He doesn't fall down from his position by being a servant. So we're hearing about this almost contradiction. So we could say that Krishna has inspired Arjuna to speak in this way. We're hearing this contradiction. Here's the all-powerful Lord, but he's serving his devotees. And then we ask the question, why is he serving his devotees? Because we don't serve unless we want something. But he's all-powerful. He has everything. He doesn't need anything by definition. Nothing is external to him. But yet he serves his devotees. Why is that? So that question really is expressed fully by the 10th canto. This is Krishna's nature. He becomes indebted to his devotees. And even if you offer him a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, he doesn't need leaves and flowers and fruits and water. He's all-powerful. Asnami, I will accept it because it's offered with bhakti. So by Arjuna's kindly saying these specific prayers, he's enlarging our understanding of who Krishna is, and therefore attracting us to want to develop our relationship with him. Would you want a friend like that? Well, here is your opportunity. One more question, I think. Yes, Prabhu. So having that desire that I want to have a relationship with Krishna, I would like that. Even though I'm not qualified and I have no love, I would like a relationship with Krishna. Krishna hears that. That sincere desire. Tavasmi chayachate. If only one sincerely says, I am yours. Abhayam sarvada tasmai. Dadam yitad vatam mama. He's Bhaktavatsal. We have to learn about Krishna, and not have to, but it will really help us. And then acting, serving, acting on what we hear, then we find out, is this story or is this really true? And when we trust Krishna fully, then we can become fearless. Yes, Paul.
Thank you for the...
Thank you.
So I have this question when you were describing about the anger of Arjuna, that he had the copper-like eyes and Krishna had lotus-like eyes. So he was not affected or he was not angry. So then I was just thinking that like whenever we get angry and on the name of service we try to get affected by the lower modes, and it comes to proving our own false ego instead of actually utilizing the anger into service. So I'd like to ask two questions. So when actually to get angry, and how to not get affected by the lower modes and actually utilize the anger for the service?
Okay, I'll try my best to divide it into two questions. First is how to not be influenced by the lower modes. Yes? And the answer is to be in the higher modes. And your second question, so the whole devotional lifestyle is in Sattva Gun, basically. The getting up early, the chanting, the eating, the water, everything is to cultivate Sattva Gun. Cultivating the mode of goodness by cultivating transcendental consciousness. I once wrote a long essay on this called Elevation to Goodness. And if you can find it somewhere or another. In that book, I think I included in the teaching book too. But you can find it on the internet also. That we actually need to cultivate goodness. So then the question is, if my nature tends to be very rajasic and I tend to get angry, what to do with that? So Narottama Das Kaur says that anger should be used to be angry at those who are against Krishna. Anyone know that from Prem Bhakti Chandrika? Koda. He says to be angry at those because they cause so much trouble with their... And Prabhupada, once I heard him say in a lecture, a recording of a lecture, a morning walk recently, that he said the problem, he was calling all the scientists rascals. So then he said, the problem with you, the devotees, you don't believe me that the scientists are rascals. And it's true, because we use an electric toothbrush, we use, what to speak of the miracle mobile phone that they've given us and our computers, and we forget the fact that they also created nuclear weapons that can annihilate most of the people in the world. And this weapon and that weapon, and people are so afraid of AI, and who knows what's going to happen with it, and then gain of function viruses, and you know about that? That's what it's called. They create these viruses. They found out that the COVID was a virus in their own terms escaped from the lab in China that the United States was supporting financially, that lab too. And how many people died because of this tendency to want to control nature instead of, and everyone has a better way, they have a better way to do everything than Krishna's plan. So, rascals, instead of simple living, technological living. And it creates so much problems. So Prabhupada said, the problem is you don't think these scientists are rascals. Are you a scientist, by the way? No. Spiritual science. Did that answer both your questions? Hare Krishna. I think we should move. You were going to tell us a story.
Yeah. Can I get the mic?
Hare Krishna. So let's thank His Grace Gurujan Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
who carries the mercy of Sri Vrindavan Dham in his heart, in his conduct, teachings, and is serving Srila Prabhupada with full dedication since 1968. By chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
How many of you are coming today for the first time? Yesterday you did come. At least I have some audience.
But somehow or another, you always find something new to say. I can't figure out how you do it.
It's your mercy.
I just asked him, have you prepared something?
Never.